Basketball is played as many different ways as probably there are people who coach the game. During the next 2 hours, we're going to try and take you through 3 phases of basketball at Indiana University. All of these 3 phases, defensive play, offensive play against man-to-man defense, and offensive play against the zone defense, will incorporate the basic fundamental approaches that we use in each area. Basketball at Indiana is not a complex thing in terms of the number of different things that we do. We really play basically one defense. We have one basic approach to both man-to-man defense in our attack of it, and the same against zone defense and our attack of it. Yet within this simple approach, there are some complexities. What we're going to go through will be all of the basic fundamental drills that we use in the development of offensive and defensive play. Sometimes I tell my players that what we have is complicated simplicity. There are really 2 schools of thought, I think, in basketball coaching. One, surprise and change, using a variety of offensive and or defensive approaches to any one game situation. The second, simplicity and execution. Ours is obviously from the latter school. Simplicity and execution, I think, is the way that we can go and best teach what we want. I don't think that you have time to teach a variety of things and teach them well. I think you've got to teach a few things about the game of basketball to your players and teach them as well as you possibly can. You realize you got 4 other guys out here playing, don't you? I mean, you've got to learn to use your imagination. Imagination is one of the most important things a basketball player can have. If you don't have an imagination, then it's very tough to recognize and anticipate. You guys are 3-on-3 right here. Where do the other 4 guys go? Let's go. My very close friend Pete Newell, who I think is perhaps the greatest coach we've ever seen, sums up basketball simply by saying you have to get more shots than they do, and you have to get better shots than they get. That talks about both your offensive play and your defensive play. When I think about an approach to coaching basketball, I always think about the old Western movie Shane, starring Alan Ladd and Gene Arthur, Van Heflin, and Brandon DeWilde. And some of you are not going to remember a couple of these names. But in a scene from Shane, Alan Ladd, as the gunfighter, is in a corral with Brandon DeWilde, the young son of the Homesteader family, and he has his gun, and Brandon DeWilde asks Shane, "Shane, why do you only use one gun?" And Shane looked at him and said, "Son, one's all you need if you know how to use it." And that's the way I feel about basketball. If what you do is executed properly, it can be simple, and that's all you need to use. Later, in that same movie, the little boy asked Shane, "Well, why do you wear your gun high on your hip when other people wear it here or there or wherever?" And Shane said, "Because I found that wearing it here is as good as any and better than most." I think that by keeping things as absolutely simple as we possibly can, we have a much better chance of executing the basic fundamentals of the game. Danny, before you threw it away, you walked with it here. Bang, bang, dribble, bad pass. You know, there are so many things that you guys do that are wrong that you can correct yourself if you just concentrate. Pete Newell has further stated that basketball is perhaps the most overcoached and undertaught game in the world. Teaching the game is, I think, of paramount importance. We don't give the kids offenses and defenses. What we try to do is teach them from a defensive standpoint how to use their feet, how to coordinate the use of their hands with good footwork, how to understand positioning, how to anticipate what's going to happen, how to recognize what's going to happen, how to communicate and help with one another. Offensively, we're trying to teach cutting and screening, handling the basketball without making mistakes, getting good shots. I think that as a coach, your primary responsibility is just as a teacher in a classroom. You're teaching basic fundamentals of your subject, which is basketball. You've got to teach kids how to play. You don't give them things to use and think that an offense is going to score or a defense is going to prevent people from scoring. That just doesn't happen. People play the game. People either score or they don't score. People prevent the other team from scoring or they allow the other team to score. And these people, your players, have got to be taught by you how to play the game. See, what'd you do? Why? You see, it's no more difficult, Winston, to open up and see the ball than it is to turn your back and not see the ball. So why not do the right thing? Now let's talk for a moment about the basic teaching method that's got to go into successful practice. This is the part-whole method of teaching. You've got to break everything you do into parts. Don't care what you do defensively, man-to-man, zone, press, you've got to break it down into the parts that make the whole successful. Those parts become then your defensive drills, and you put them together to build your team defense. You do the exact same thing with your offense. You take the parts of your offense, the individual cuts, the individual screens, you work on them in drill form, and then you put it together into the whole. The part-whole method has got to be followed, in my opinion, every day of practice. We've got to break our offense and our defense down into parts, and then we put the whole together. We found several years ago it was necessary to set up a little drill for our players where they work at catching the ball, making a fake, dribbling it, and coming to a stop without traveling. I think the most common error in basketball relative to turning it over is the travel violation. This is a simple drill where players work in pairs, trying to prevent the walk, trying to make good cuts, catch the ball, make good starts on the dribble without shuffling the feet. Anytime there's a problem with something in basketball, I think it's incumbent upon you as a coach to develop a drill situation that will work to combat the problem that you have, that will work to straighten out the deficiencies that you have. You know, we're the teachers and the kids are the students, and if we haven't taught them exactly what to do, then we can't expect them to do those things that they haven't been taught. I think it's as simple as that, and that's what the practice floor is all about. We want to force the postman to pick up the driver, and once the dribble has been stopped, we want him to have to recover to the shooter. We also have an offensive play here where the pass has to be made, and we've got to get the shot against pressure. I think any time, as I've said on several occasions, that you set up a drill that doesn't have offensive and defensive implications, it's a poorly thought out drill. Repetition, I think, is one of the most important keys in teaching success. We've got to be repetitive in our teaching. We've got to set up situations where we continually go over those things that are most important to our success, both offensively and defensively. We don't just repeat within today's practice structure, but we are repetitive in our thinking and in our organization day after day in both our offensive and our defensive approaches. All right, here's a good example of our side-to-side contesting drill. We contest him, we front him in the post, we contest on the other side. He makes a little bit of a lunge for the ball, which we don't want. He's got to stay in position. Take it again, take it again. Make him work, Winston! Fronts the post, contest on both sides. Bring him back, bring him back! As we're going through our drills, you'll notice that everything we do has the same rotation. We go from offense to defense to the end of the line. I think it's important that the defensive man is a little tired, the offensive man is fresh, so we get the defensive man in a position where he's got to work against the fresher guy. Give the advantage to the offense in every single way you can in practice to develop the defense. One of the real keys, perhaps the most important key in my mind in successful coaching, is being able to emphasize those points that are most pertinent to what you're doing in all phases of play. Everything you do in one drill has to be a carryover to another drill. If you're talking to players about pass fake in one drill, then you've got to make certain that you emphasize pass fake in every drill that you're running, in everything that you're doing. Too many times I think coaches make a big mistake by working on point 1 in drill A, and then they go on to point B where they're going to work on point 2, or drill B where they're going to work on point 2, and they fail to emphasize point 1. I think one of the real keys in coaching basketball is to be able to constantly emphasize points going from one drill to another. That what we work on today, we continue to work on tomorrow. That what we work on in one drill, we're going to work on in the next drill. 2-on-2 is a basic guard pickup for us. We pick up at midcourt. We try to work 2-on-2 situation. So our guards have got to get used to pressuring the basketball, to contesting the other guard. We give the offense the entire half court to operate in, which makes it very, very difficult on the defense. We don't allow any switching. They've got to stay with the man that they've been assigned to play or that they pick up at midcourt. I think you can see that we try to go from one sequence to another as quickly as we possibly can. I think a key to a good practice situation is getting the players to work so they're going very quickly from one sequence to another. We let them stand around, we let them walk. I think it just destroys the practice. As we go down the floor, we're going to be in a weave pattern. As we come back, it'll be straight lines. Jumpers, jumpers, let's go! Mike. We've talked about repetition being a key to teaching success. And I'm a firm believer in this, as I've already mentioned. Yet in a practice situation, when mistakes are committed, I think they have to be corrected right away. And I think there's a definite way to correct mistakes, and that's as quickly as possible. I believe that we as coaches have a tendency to talk too much in practice and work too little. I think we get into many situations where we are explaining mistakes, where we are going over something verbally at the expense of working on it and getting actual repetition into the particular skill, whatever that might be. Sometimes we have the cutter move out wider and the screener come in tighter to get the proper angle set in what we want. Get the right angle now, Uwe. The right angle. Time your cut, Darryl. Don't drift in there like you're looking at Uwe. Wait till Uwe's coming, then come off of him hard. You got way in too deep that time. We want you coming off toward the ball, not away from the ball now. Now, set him up. Now, good, very good. Excellent. All right, look what we got. Because you made a good move off that. Very good. Spread it out so you got a three-man front. Wider, Tracy, wider. Get back, Chuck, top of the key. All right, let's go. We'll go from one man dribbling against a two-man gap to two players working against three people. Now we've set up two gaps that we want to go into. We're trying to get our offensive people to penetrate those gaps. Split the, hold it. Go all the way through the gap if you can. Take the ball right to the bucket. You're trying to get through those gaps. You're not just trying to get into them, you're trying to get through the gap all the way to the bucket. Let's go. Look for the step-up shot. Come on, defense. You've got to shut him off. Hold it. Steve, the ball has to come to the middle of the court before you can bring it back where you got it from. Anytime you're playing the side of his own offense and the ball comes back to you, it's got to touch the middle of the floor before you can bring it back to that same side. That's it. Get it reversed, good. While we have to correct mistakes and correct them immediately, I think as a coach you've got to do it very quickly, or you must take that player out of the situation and continue the drill and correct his mistake on the sideline. Now, before we get into the actual work, the things that we do to develop individual and team defensive play from a basic fundamental standpoint, let's just spend a moment talking about practice structure. More than anything else, I'm a strong believer in the structure of your practice being the singularly most determining reason for your success or lack of success as a coach. First of all, I think your practice has got to be set up in such a way that you make absolute maximum use of facilities available. Baskets, space, balls, whatever you've got. I've coached in situations where I've been the only guy on the floor or I've had 4 or 5 assistants. If I'm the only guy out there, I work right out of the middle of the court. I'm going to make sure that I can see in every direction, that I've got everything under control. If I have assistants, then I move around the floor, going from one group to another. I never have more than 1 extra player in any given drill situation. In other words, if I have a one-on-one situation, there will only be 3 people involved in that drill. If I have a 2-on-2 situation, I would only have 6 people involved in the drill, just 1 more than enough to do the drill. In our 11-man break drill, we fill 11 spots, 3 offensive spots, 2 defensive spots, 2 outlets, and at the other end of the court, we have 2 outlets and 2 defensive spots. When the ball is taken, all 5 people, the 3 offensive players and the 2 defensive players, go after the rebound. Whoever gets it joins with the 2 outlet men at that end of the court, and we take the ball 3-on-2 to the other end. This is a continuous drill that involves everything we have to do in terms of offensive transition and the tail end of our defense against the break. We get different people in the middle who have to work at handling the ball. We're filling the lanes on the break, getting the ball out and down. We get our people that can handle the ball best in the middle. Our people that aren't as adept at handling the ball go to the lane sides of the floor. One of our combination drills is to set 5 offensive players against 4 defensive players. In this way, we give the advantage to the offense numerically. The defense has to cover 5 people with 4. We try to get into the next possession just as quickly as possible. I think this is an imperative part of practice. You've got to make sure that your kids are hustling and moving as quickly as they can through everything that they do. 5-on-4 puts the offense in an obvious advantageous situation. We think anytime that we can set up a situation where the defense is at a numerical disadvantage or the offense has an advantage because of the use of 2 basketballs, we're putting the kind of pressure on our defense that's going to help us develop. If 4 people can learn to contain 5, then we think when we get into a game situation, we're going to profit from it tremendously. It's in keeping with our idea that practice has got to be more difficult for our players than games. Certainly trying to contain 5 people in practice with 4 defensive men is going to be a lot tougher than trying to play 5-on-5 in a game situation. We rotate either 1 player in or we rotate the 2 players that I simply consider 1 more than enough to do the drill in and rotate the other group out. Our rotation in every drill that we do is always from offense to defense, out, and then back in, offense, defense, and out. Let's see how we'd put this into effect in practice. In this setup, we simply want to show how we rotate in all of our drills. We're going to go from offense to defense and out with the new man coming in on offense. We don't change positions in drills. We never leave it up to the players as to how they're going to rotate. Every one of our drills has the exact same rotation. I think a consistency in everything that you do is necessary. This is our driving line drill. The offensive man makes his move at the basket. We rotate it with the offense going to defense, a new man stepping in, and the defensive man ready to come in on the next move. I think that you can do a real service to your practice structure by utilizing managers in positions where they handle the basketball or make passes or catch it or set screens or apply some kind of defensive pressure. I think over the years here at Indiana, our managers have had a tremendous effect on the development of our basketball team because of the way in which we have utilized them in practice situations. This is an excellent way to put everything together that you're working on in both aspects of your defense by giving an advantage to the offense. The advantage here is the room in which the offense has to operate. They've got two people working in an entire court. The coaches handling the basketball or managers handling the basketball can threaten to make the penetrating drive to the basket. The defense has to react to that by shutting off that drive. At any time that they feel a necessity to do so, the offensive players can return the ball to one of the two feeders on top, and we can resume our movement inside. Everything you're doing in practice has got to be geared to making your team quicker, mentally and physically. Hold it. Tracy, that's just what I'm saying. You made no look to block out. Tracy, you don't think at all. You made no look to block out. You had two guys over there. All you did was look at the shot. Winston goes right by you, gets the rebound. You didn't look over here to see who I can go block out. You know, this game, playing this game is a matter of thinking better than the other guy does. No, it's not a matter of you being bigger or quicker or stronger or anything. It's a matter of you thinking better. I think we can do a lot more with mental quickness than we can with physical quickness. If you are moving your players very quickly from one thing to another, you're not giving them time to rest and walk on to the next drill and then explain what it is, you're going to have a team that reacts quicker to situations in a game. If you're a sloppy guy in terms of how quickly you get your players going from one thing to another, how long it takes them to get from one thing to another, determines, I think, how quickly they're going to react in a game situation. We try and go as rapidly as we can from one thing to another. And in this regard, we set up practice so that we never work on an individual drill for longer than 5 minutes. Anytime we're working on a single fundamental aspect of the game, we'll work on it for 5 minutes and then we go to something else. We don't work on team things for longer than 10 minutes. If we're going to work on zone offense, we'll only work on it for 10 minutes. If I feel we need 30 minutes of work in a given practice on a zone offense, we'll just work 10 minutes and then go on to something else and then come back. We play 4-on-4 with an open post man, nobody guarding him, puts a great pressure on the defense. The offense has an automatic release in the middle of the floor. There are all kinds of back cut, down screen, back screen possibilities. The offense has got to react to the pass to the post man by getting in to help out on the post man, to put pressure on the post man, and at the same time, we're playing the normal parts of our 4-on-4 defense, both ball side and help side. In everything that we're doing, we're trying to get from one possession to the other just as quickly as possible. We're very demanding in this regard because I think that the players have got to be able to react quickly to situations. We have got to make them as mentally quick as we possibly can. It's always been my contention that you can do a lot more to develop mental quickness than you can physical quickness. Physical quickness, for the most part, is something that you either have or don't have. But the development of mental quickness is something that we can work on every day at practice. And if we can become quicker mentally, if we can recognize things quicker, anticipate quicker, then we automatically become quicker physically. In this demonstration, we're going to give the players 20 seconds and see which player gets the most baskets in 20 seconds. Now they have competition against one another, and they also have the pressure of time, the limit of 20 seconds. Ready, start. They've got to concentrate on the basket. I think it's very good that we have more than one person shooting, so there's a little bit of confusion in the game, that there are some distractions that make them work hard at concentration. We'll increase this in just a moment. Stop. The next shooting drill involves two people on a basketball. This is a drill that we throw in at various times during the course of any practice. I'll just call out, pair up, shoot to 10. Immediately the players grab partners, they get to the nearest basket, and we're going to shoot to 10. For the sake of demonstration, we'll only go to 4. Ready? Start. Player takes the shot, gets his own rebound, throws it back to his partner. Again, there's an amount of concentration and discipline involved relative to chasing the ball down, getting the pass back to the guy so he can step right up and take the shot. Trying to develop quickness is extremely important to us in this drill, as is the case with any of our shooting drills, because we've got to develop players who not only can get the ball in the hole, but can do it under pressure and can do it as quickly as possible. The pressures of gameplay have got to be a part of every shooting drill that we use. Stop. I also think it's imperative that anytime you have a 5-on-5 possession in practice, you are converting the end of the possession, whether it be a defensive rebound, a turnover, or an offensive basket, you are converting it to the other end of the floor. As coaches, we think an awful lot of offensive play and defensive play. But I think that area in the middle, conversion, many people call it transition, conversion to offense or conversion to defense is going to be the final determining factor in what kind of a team you have. If your team can get down the floor defensively without giving up easy scores, and if your team can get down the floor offensively and eventually get a good shot, then you're going to be a pretty tough team to beat. In every block-out drill that we use, every sequence, we want our players to take the ball on an outlet, either through the dribble, and there are some players that we allow to use the dribble on the outlet and some that we don't. Let's get the outlet, get the ball out of there. If a player is one of those that we allow to dribble the ball out of there, he can do so. If it's a player that we have make the outlet pass rather than using the dribble, he's going to make the pass every time he gets a defensive rebound. My whole idea in getting the ball out of there is simply to get away from the board with the basketball. I don't want the ball thrown away in attempting to get a quick outlet from the defensive board. I'd rather get away a couple seconds slower and still have the basketball. Conversion is so important to what we do in a basketball game. I think more important than either offense or defense. We set up a 5-on-5 situation where we stay at one end of the court. Each time a coach hollers change, the offensive man with the ball drops it right where it is. The defense has to change to offense immediately, trying to score at the same basket. The offense makes the conversion to the defense, but must pick up somebody other than the man that is presently guarding each of them. Change! We set up a 5-on-5 situation where the offense is looking to score. If at any time one of the coaches hollers change, the offensive man with the ball immediately drops it. The defense converts to offense at the same end of the court, trying to score right away. The offense converting to defense must do so by picking up a player other than the one guarding each of them. We think this really helps us with our conversion instead of going from end to end and utilizing the time involved in that conversion. All of our conversion has to take place right at the same basket. Our players have to be very much aware of what's happening. They have to be able to recognize where the ball is. They have to communicate and pick up players immediately, or there's going to be a score made. Practice structure